Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Book Talk with Tracy. Today I'm going to be talking about one of my earlier books called My Mother the ManEater. It was published in 2010 and it is definitely a romance, but it's also got a fair bit of mystery and it's a thriller. At the same time, there's lots of suspense. So My Mother the ManEater is one of my earlier books. And in fact, I was writing this at the same time that I was writing 3 other novels, of course, before any of them had been published, before I'd found an agent or any of those kind of things. So it was one of my earlier works, but I really poured my heart into it because it's a lot of fun. It's a fun book. It's a little bit spicy. It's definitely got romance. It's got some mystery and suspense. And I still really love this story. It has gone through changes, and it is going through changes. In fact, I'm republishing this very soon. Not sure when this video is going to come out, but definitely it's going to be republished fairly soon. The title's going to stay the same, and the basic story is pretty much the same too. And in fact, let's talk about that, the story. So this is the story of Jolene Allen, a very attractive 40-something woman who we would characterize as a cougar. I mean, that word totally personifies who Jolene is. She likes men, she likes younger men, and she's not afraid to go and get what she wants. And in fact, most of the time, it works out for her, but nothing has really been lasting since she left her husband several years back. He was actually a criminal, he was in jail, he was a nasty character, and even though they had 5 daughters together, she finally got out of that very toxic relationship and started a life of her own with her daughters. So fast forward, she now has these 5 grown-up daughters. Even though she's still in her mid-40s, as I said, she started really young because her husband Harold was kind of a nasty fellow and all those kind of things. And now she's, moved ahead in her life and she's looking for a man. She's looking for affirmation because she's feeling like she's getting older and she's thinking, well, maybe it's time to, find something a little more lasting. All right, so a lot of the book is her, on the hunt, if you will, and she's, simultaneously dating several men at the same time. And they're all very different. Of course, they're younger than her. And, that's going on. Well, meanwhile, as fate or luck would have it, her daughters also one by one meet some of these men in various circumstances. And in fact, they guys start falling in love with the daughters instead. So it creates quite a tangled mess, if you will. There's a lot of drama happening as these various relationships play themselves out, with the daughters now involved with her ex-boyfriends. But there's also this thread of danger and mystery, I guess you will, under the surface, because her ex-husband is now out of jail and he's doing all kinds of nasty things to try and ruin her reputation, ruin her financially, ruin her reputation or her relationship with her daughters, and maybe even ultimately ruin her life, as in, her life is in danger. So part of that story is where, that's sort of the underlying thing, is that she's dealing with all of this terrible trauma caused by her ex, at the same time trying to juggle all these relationships. And then, of course, her relationships with her daughters begin to implode because of, their conflict of interest, I guess you could say, in that they're also interested in those same guys. I think for me, though, the really big thing about this book is it's also a Christian book, because I do like that redemptive side of the story. So just to read off the back cover, it says, with grit, humor, action, intrigue, and romance, My Mother the ManEater is a redemptive story about a woman whose search for meaning in life sends her straight into the arms of God. So I guess that's the ultimate climax to the story, beyond the romance and beyond solving those other difficulties. It's the fact that, anybody can come to God. And I guess that's, because she's not a squeaky clean character by any means. She has a past. She has some really shameful things that have gone on in her life. And yet, God doesn't look at that. He looks at the heart. And so, that's one of the joys, I guess, of writing a book like this, is that you can take those kind of characters and they can be redeemed. When I was writing it, in fact, I was thinking a lot about the book of Hosea, and you guys know the story, or maybe you don't, I don't know, but it's where the prophet was asked to marry a prostitute, and she continued to be unfaithful to him, and yet, God continued to say to him, no, you need to you need to be with her, because that's part of the redemption, I guess, of the country at that time. So, we can kind of translate that into a modern context and say that it's never too late for anybody, right? Like, it doesn't matter how dirty you think you are and how unworthy you think you are. And I think for Jolene, the main character, that's part of her journey, is learning to love herself. Even though she comes across as very self-confident, especially when it comes to men, the truth is she never felt worthy of real love. So there's just so much more I want to talk about in terms of what happens in the book, how I came to write the book, some of the other characters and things like that. But I think we're going to wrap it up for today, because I try to keep these fairly short. So that's it for today's Book Talk with Tracy. If you want to know more about this or any one of my books, I invite you to pop over to my website, tracykrause.com. No E in Tracy, 2 S's in Krause. I always have to qualify that, because people do tend to spell my name many different ways. And you can see this book. You can see all the rest of them. Please leave a review if you've read any of my work. And we're going to talk more next time on Book Talk with Tracy about my mother, the ManEater. See you then.